עכשיו לראיון שערכנו לפני זמן קצר עם המקורבת לטראמפ, דוברת המפלגה הרפובליקנית לשעבר, אליזבת פיפקו. Hello, Elizabeth, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Trump delivered an ultimatum to Hamas, release all hostages by Saturday or hell will break loose. Do you think this was only a tactical move in the negotiations, as we know now that only 3 hostages will be released Saturday?
First and foremost, we should admit that it was some form of a negotiation tactic, which did in fact work, because we went from Hamas backing down and saying they were not releasing any hostages to Hamas clearly having some kind of fear of President Trump. I think it's important to note the differences between President Trump and the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration that we had before him. I sat here watching, patiently waiting, rooting for this administration, knowing I didn't vote for them, but hoping they'd be there to support me as an American and, of course, Israel, our strongest ally, and they didn't. I never saw any pressure being put on Hamas. I didn't see any threats towards Hamas. In fact, I saw the opposite. I saw pressure being put on Israel, right? The opposite of what should have been. That's why Donald Trump's words are so meaningful and magical for us that are hoping for an end to this war and the release of the hostages, because it's new, it's exciting, because it's the America that we waited for so long, and because it does, in fact, work. Hamas did not fear Joe Biden. They do, in fact, fear Donald Trump.
Yes, but knowing Trump, do you think this was a calculated move or an emotional one?
You know, I think it's both. President Trump is not highly emotional. I think the world knows that, but he does have a very good gut instinct. He does react very strongly to things, and he does so because he reacts based on how he feels about what's going on, not based on what he believes will earn him votes, right? So if people want to say that that's emotional, that's fine, but the fact is he reacts as a human being. He saw, as he put himself, 3 hostages come home that looked like they were coming home from a Hamas / Holocaust camp, right? He said that you cannot tell a difference between what happened to these men in these tunnels in Gaza if you were to compare it to what happened to the Jews 80 years ago in the Holocaust. That's what he felt.
After the meeting with King Abdallah, is Trump going to move forward, do you think, with his migration plan, despite the strong opposition from the Arab world?
You know, it's interesting. People are talking about the opposition as if it's a lot stronger than it actually, in fact, is. People don't want to talk about the king saying that he would consider taking a sick children, from Gaza. I think it was a couple thousand he said that he would actually take in. There are others saying similar things. I think a plan like this is not one that you can implement overnight. President Trump is much stronger and smarter than me when it comes to something like this. He knows that, so he's not expecting this to happen tomorrow. He's expecting a lot of conversations and negotiations to take place at the same time that he completes his number 1 priority, which is, in fact, bringing the hostages home. So I think it's going to be a lot of give and take, but he 100% intends to follow through with any plan that he puts forward.
Yeah. To what extent will he pressure Netanyahu and his government to proceed to phase B of the ceasefire deal? What do you think?
You know, I don't like the word pressure. I don't think he's pressuring Netanyahu to do anything. I think he's pressuring the world to move on from the pain that we've seen these last few years. That means both the same thing that's happening in Russia and Ukraine, what's happened in Gaza, what's happened all over the world. There's been so much pain, so much fighting, so much bloodshed when it comes especially to innocent people. So I don't think him and Netanyahu are on opposite sides of this fight, right? I think they're on the same side. The fact is, Bibi Netanyahu was welcomed into the White House after 15 days of a Trump presidency. You can compare that to over 1,200 days of a Joe Biden presidency. That's how long it took them to welcome the leader of our strongest allies. So I think pressure is the wrong word. I think they're working together, but it is no secret that Donald Trump wants a ceasefire deal to continue. He wants the hostages to all come home and will do whatever he can to make that happen.
The Wall Street Journal reported, based on U.S. military sources, that Israel will attempt to persuade Trump to join an attack on Iran, since American support is essential to such an operation. Can you tell us anything at all about Trump's thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, so I never like to speak for the president, but he has spoken on this at length over the last few years, and actually over the last few days. Donald Trump does not like unnecessary wars or unnecessary attacks. He never has. He's talked about making some kind of a deal with Iran. He's talked about negotiating. The fact is, he doesn't want unnecessary bloodshed anywhere in the world. And I think for him, when it comes to keeping the world peaceful and safe, that often means negotiating with terrorists. That means negotiating with Iran. So I expect him to put forward more of his own plan in the near future. But the fact is, he's not interested in starting wars that he can't finish. He's interested only in what could make for a more peaceful Middle East and a more peaceful life for everyone in the world that wants nothing but peace, that supports our Western values that I think we very deeply share with the state of Israel. So I think he, Bibi Netanyahu, anyone invested in peace is going to work together to make sure they do what they have to do to deal with an enemy threat like Iran.
Former Republican Party spokesperson Elizabeth Pipko, thank you for talking with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.